lovely girls. Can you tell me how many ways to speak I love you?
You go first.
Say.
I'm crazy about you. I'm in love with you. You are the love of my life. I love you to the moon and back. I'm head over heels for you. You are my partner in crime. English is diverse. And English is definitely a way for us to communicate and have a chance to reach further. That's right, and welcome to IFO Junior!
Hello everyone, welcome to IFO Junior Edition. And it's Saturday night and it's time for us to meet with each other, and thank you so much for tuning in with us. Today we are going to talk about a lot of things, and I know that the topic is going to interest a lot of people. Now please take a look at the screen and listen to today's episode.
Oh, you know what? I'm stressing up right now.
What's wrong with you?
Well, you see, the IELTS.
I thought you would be fine. You are so smart.
Well, yeah, I aim for an 8. I don't know, I have taken the IELTS for like 7 or 8 times. But my score doesn't seem to improve. Especially with writing. I'm struggling with it.
Well, IELTS. We are talking about IELTS every time, every place. And in the last episode, we had a talk with an expert about how to study English in general. And we have been receiving tons of messages on different social media platforms about how to study IELTS. And we're going back to the main and the original vision of the show, IELTS Face-off. And our expert is super talented and amazing guest, and we're so honored to have him. He had spent a lot of years living and studying in America, and also very experienced in teaching IELTS. Please welcome to the stage, Mr.Minh Đức. Thank you so much for joining us. Please have a seat.
Thanks for having me.
Yes. So how are you?
I'm doing well. A bit nervous.
You have a really, brilliant academic professions and backgrounds. So could you tell us a little bit more about your academic backgrounds?
My academic background. So I studied 10th grade in TRÍNH High School in Hanoi. And then my parents sent me abroad. So I spent 7 years learning high school and college in the United States. And then I spent a year working as a brand ambassador for a company.
Wow, so that's pretty a long time in the USA.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when did you come back to Vietnam, and why did you choose IELTS to be your profession?
Okay. Well, I returned to Vietnam more than 2 years ago and have been teaching IELTS for close to 2 years now. So the reason why I chose to teach IELTS, I guess it sounds a bit cliche, but I think I was born for this job. When I was a student, I was very passionate about fitness, so I worked as a fitness coach just through online coaching. But when I returned to Vietnam, you know how Asian parents go. They don't want to hear their kids returning from abroad after investing billions of Vietnamese dong to get a good education, and you telling them that you want to be a fitness trainer. I don't think there's anything wrong with being a fitness trainer. I love it, but my parents wasn't too happy about it, and I wanted to make them happy. So I was looking for another job that would be more suitable for me. And I think other than helping people improving their body image and how they feel about themselves, I think helping kids and helping students realize their passion for a language, English, I think is a very also noble goal to have.
Wow, that's amazing. And in today's episode, we are going to talk about IELTS.
Yes.
And more specifically, a lot of audience really want to know the study plan. Because nowadays, the vast majority of young Vietnamese students really want to take the IELTS and to achieve their goals. So what do you think are the benefits and advantages of IELTS in Vietnam?
Okay, I think there are plenty of benefits. Just because IELTS is not a knowledge test, it's a language test. So being able to do well on IELTS is proof that you have very high English proficiency. And as you know, in an increasingly globalized world, knowing a foreign language like English is very essential. And on top of that, I think if you want to explore any opportunities abroad, you will need a foreign language. And I think being proficient in English will allow you to come into contact with a whole set of new information, because if you only know Vietnamese, then you can only read content and watch content in Vietnamese. But if you know English, there are a whole bunch of materials that you can read on whatever subject that you are passionate about.
That's right, I totally agree. And it's kind of a way for us to broaden our horizon.
Yeah.
And myself, I took the IELTS not because I really wanted to go study abroad at first, but it really opened up a door of opportunities for me.
Okay.
So, you know, for the past few years, we could really witness, you know, the rising popularity of IELTS in Vietnam. And I believe that IELTS is also a part of a long-term goal. So a lot of questions have been posed, and one of those very popular one is, when should I start learning for the IELTS, and how long should I learn for the IELTS?
Okay. I think according to language experts, the earlier we are able to expose children to a foreign language, the easier it is for them to immerse themselves in that language and acquire it. Because as we all know it, children are blank slates, highly impressionable, right? So ideally, I think they should start learning English as early as primary school. Having said that, I do suppose Vietnamese primary school students have other priorities, like learning just fundamental skills like reading comprehension in Vietnamese, basic arithmetic, or other essential soft skills. And on top of that, IELTS require comprehension of certain complex ideas and social issues. Your second question, you said how long should they be learning English for?
IELTS more specifically.
IELTS specifically. Now that I am an IELTS teacher, and I would say that I'm still learning the language, and I think this is a lifelong process. So I wouldn't put like time cap on it. I think you can always be learning, and there's always room for improvement.
So another question is, how long should they study IELTS for the test?
For the test, because it is learning a new language, I definitely think you should stay clear of any center that promise too fast progress, like 5 months or 6 months. You need enough time to absorb the information and really get comfortable with the language. So I think the ideal duration to prepare for the IELTS test is probably anywhere between, I would say, 15 to 24 months.
15 to 24 months. I mean, the maximum of 2 years.
Yeah.
So it can be and I know it can be applied to the beginners in English.
Beginner if English. So you're saying people who have no prior knowledge of English
like no
whatsoever.
foundation at all.
Okay. Yes, I think depending on what band score you are aiming for. Most Vietnamese students, they use the IELTS to get into their dream college or to graduate college. So 6.5 or 7 on the IELTS suffice. So I think with that desired band score, then 24 months I think is enough if you study intensively.
Yes, I totally agree. And also, as you mentioned earlier, IELTS is basically English and is a lifelong process and journey to study. So how could I know that, okay, I am able to take the IELTS test, and I have the firm knowledge to take the IELTS test?
I think we are very blessed to be living in this day and age where we have access to a wide range of information and just materials. I think, and you ask, when do you know you're ready, right? There are a lot of mock tests that you can take in terms of reading and listening. Obviously, the Cambridge books are a very valuable resource because they are written by Cambridge. And Cambridge is the organization that write the IELTS. So it is a very accurate reflection of the actual test. So you can test your reading and listening skill using these mock tests. In terms of writing and speaking, it's a bit more challenging, right? Because you cannot judge your own writing or your own speaking. So I think this is where a good IELTS center would come in, because a good IELTS center will have teachers who can provide valuable feedbacks and helpful feedbacks so that students know what area that they need to work on. And they can be the teachers can be the people who make the judgment call to tell the students if they feel like the students are ready to take the test or not.
And you have spent years in abroad, so like you must have had a lot of environments, and you are immersed in a cultural environment so that you can really master your language. So for the Vietnamese students who don't have that enough opportunity to go study abroad or like to have immersed with foreigners, so what do you think should be the approaches for them?
I think they should try to build English learning habits, because throughout my time teaching, I've noticed that there are so many students who are exceptionally good at speaking in English, and they have never left Vietnam before. And I wouldn't say they are very good at English, but some of them don't even have the qualities of, say, a traditional hard-working student. They are not that studious at home. When they have to do homework, some of them would not do the homework. But when I ask them, so how come you're so good at English? Then they would tell me about their habits of just watching YouTube videos, but it's all English content. So I think it is very important to have to build habits that facilitate the process of learning English.
Welcome back to the studio. We are here at our IELTS teacher, IELTS expert, Minh Đức, and we're going to continue the talk about study plan and also some approaches for students and teachers. So I see there is clearly, a common issue that a lot of parents are sending their kids to IELTS centers, but unfortunately they don't see an effective results, and they send their kids at a very early age. So what do you think is the problem?
I'm guessing that the classes that they send their children to are still relying on traditional methods, which is student monologuing throughout the whole lecture. I really don't think that the traditional teaching method works with learning a new language, because it kills children's love for the language and their curiosity to explore the language further themselves. So I really do believe that students need enjoyable and digestible content to learn English well, and I think this is where parents can help too. But parents, you guys need to be very smart and subtle about this. Don't rely on fear tactics to force your kids to study, and really get to know your children. Try to find out what their hobby is, what they like to read, what they like to watch, and from there you can buy English materials. Like it can be as simple as buying them English comics, or buying them an English movies and watch it with them with English subtitles on. In a way, it's like you're tricking your children into getting better at English without them even knowing it.
So apart from, having a mentor or a teacher at an IELTS center, self-learning in IELTS, I think, is really important as well. So what would be the study plan that you suggest for the beginners?
I think they have, obviously, they will need a very concrete study plans. There need to be steps, very details of, say, how many hours or how many tests how many mock tests I'm willing to take in one day. They have to determine where they are at the moment and the course of actions that they need to take to arrive at their desired place. So, for example, if, as I said earlier, IELTS is a language test, so say in the listening portion, if you are only at, say, 5.0, which means you probably understand like 40% of the audio file. Now you want to get to, say, 70% and 80%. What are the steps that you need to do to go from 40% of comprehension to 70% of comprehension? So I think the obvious strategies are dictation, right? Or simply listening to the audio file again. Look at new words that you don't know. And you have to be very strict with yourself about this. You cannot cheat yourself. So you know that you have to look at these new words to move closer to your goal of 70% comprehension, right? Then you need to take it seriously. You are studying it for yourself, and you are not studying it for your parents. And I think that's the mindset that you have to ingrain it in you.
So first up, mindset. So what are the other steps?
I would say find a good English centers, because as we said earlier, for passive skills like reading and listening, I do think that they can improve that by a lot if they are hardworking at home, knowledge, and who is conscientious to help you improve your speaking and writing, so they can point out your area of weaknesses. So I think the second step would be finding a good IELTS center with good teachers.
So what is some recommendations and advice and some key takeaways that you could offer to the students and a lot of people who are watching the show that wants to conquer the IELTS?
I've been thinking about this a lot ever since I started teaching, because the question you asked me is essentially what you want to instill in your students, right? And I think I will bring back to my previous point, which is you have to realize what you are learning English for. Because if you are learning for your parents, then you can only go so far because you're not doing it for yourself. You have to know that if you want to get good at IELTS speaking, you have to get good at expressing yourself in English. You have to be yourself in English. And it will take a lot of practice. But you have to realize all the obstacles that you're going to face, and you have to accept it. And you have to realize that you're doing it for yourself. So like, for example, for me right now, I'm sitting across from you. And I can be myself. I can express my own opinions in English. And that is the ultimate goal. So just realize that you are learning English for yourself, not for everyone else. Your parents may be forcing you, but I think later on in life, everyone will realize that it comes from a good place, and they also want you to be able to be yourself and have good opportunities. That's why they are forcing you to study.
Wow, okay. So the mindset is super important.
Yeah.
So in every show we have a myth, and today's myth about IELTS. Parents who are not fluent in English cannot help their children learn IELTS. Mythbuster, what do you think?
Okay. I think there is a tiny bit of truth in this statement. Obviously, parents who are good at English can better monitor the progress of the English learning journey of their children. But that is not to say that parents who are not good at English cannot help their children. I think there are two things that parents who are not good at English can do to just facilitate the English learning process for their children. First, they can help establish English learning routines and habits, but they need to set the bar very low on this one. So according to study, 15 to 20 minutes of exposure to English content per day is suitable for kindergarten children. And it can be as simple as letting them watch an English cartoon or an English song. And this duration of 15 to 20 minutes can be increased incrementally as the children age. And I think by the time they are in secondary school, they should get at least about 1 hour of exposure to English materials per day. And the second one, I think, is be their companion. So what I mean here is just don't be a bystander. Ask them about what they learned today, and maybe ask them to explain it back to you. Because if they are able to explain the knowledge that they learned in class back to you effectively, that's one more time learning, right? And they will memorize the knowledge better. And just take part in whatever English activities that they are doing. Maybe just watch them play the game that they are playing, or join them in an English movies with English subtitles.
I totally agree. Hey, you're back with IFO Junior Edition, and this is Voice of the Week, and also my favorite part of the show, because in every week we will have a contestant who is very smart, talented, cute, adorable, and they're gonna be here making a presentation and improve their public speaking skills and listen to the comments and advice from our expert. And now please take a look at the screen to see who the contestant is.
Hello, my name is MInh Vũ, and today I'm going to tell myself for a bit. My full name is MInh Vũ, and now I am 4th grade. Now I live in Hanoi, which is pretty nice, and I learned English from my teachers and books. And I began learning English since I was 4. And if you're asking why do I really like English, because if you learn English, you could talk to other people in other countries really well, because most countries in the world speak the language of English. And that's the end. Bye bye.
Scared and happy.
You're scared and happy. Why scared and why happy?
Because I have to stand on the stage and I'm really scared, but I came here and I'm really happy.
Have you ever spoken in public?
Yes.
Yes, how many times?
I think many times.
Many times. Then why are you scared and nervous this time?
I don't know why.
Okay, so take a deep breath. You can do it. Yeah, you can do it. Okay, have you prepared for the prompt?
Of course, I only prepared for 4 days.
4 days out of 6 days since the first day you got the prompt. And here is the expert, and he's gonna comment on your presentation. Okay, are you ready?
Yes.
Off you go to the stage. The prompt is when I grow up. Are you ready?
Yes. When I grow up, I want to be a scientist, a great scientist. Why do I want to be a scientist? I want to be a scientist because I can discover new things around everything, and I can know many facts around us, and being a scientist is actually really awesome. Science can almost answer every fact around us, and this is my knowledge about science. I know many things about science, and the thing that I know about science is many chemicals, and I know about uranium and nuclear bombs and other stuff. Nuclear bombs cause so much damage to Japan, to the Japanese people. Some of them got cancer, some of them almost died, and some of them died. And that's why I want to be a scientist, to bring peace to the world and ban off the bad and horrible actions that the bad people make. And that's the end of my presentation.
So do you have any follow-up questions?
Okay. I want to ask, so you said you are very interested in science, right? What is the first scientific fact that get you interested in science?
It's actually first when I knew about the solar system and many other chemicals that I don't remember the name. I was really interested about it, and I began to read books about it, and now I really like science.
Okay. I have another question for you. You talk about science as very big things, right? Solar system and the nuclear bombs. But I think science is everywhere around us, right? You say you can use scientific fact to explain anything.
Almost everything.
Almost everything, yes. So is there anything in your home how you can use science to explain how it works? Is there any tool in your home or any machine in your home that you can explain?
I don't. I know that could be answered in science, but if I explain it, and I don't actually, it's hard to explain, so I can't actually explain it.
Okay.
So do you have any comments on the presentation?
So I will comment you on your content and on your style. Content-wise, I think you did a good job. You answered the question, and you answered the question straight to the point very well. But let's talk about speaking style. So I have two comments for you. I think you should have more variation in your pitch and in your tone. For me right now, it sounds quite monotone and it sounds a bit scripted. And that is not to say that being scripted is bad, because this is a presentation. Obviously, you need to prepare beforehand, right? But you need to speak in a way that sounds like it's not scripted. So your speech is a lot more convincing and natural. Say for IELTS speaking, for example, in the future, if you want to take the IELTS test, and in IELTS speaking part 2, normally you would have to tell a story. And if the examiner feel like you have memorized your answer, you would not get a good score. So you need more variation in your pitch, so it sounds like it's your natural speaking, it's not memorization. And my second comment is in terms of speed. I think you have to control the speed that you are speaking at. Don't let the speed consume you, and don't try to rush through the speech. Sometimes you should slow down, and sometimes you should speed up. Like what I'm doing right now, I'm slowing down, but if I want to, I can speed up if I want. And there are parts in your speech where you should slow down to leave a bigger impression and sounds more convincing to the examiner. So content-wise, perfect, okay? But in terms of speaking skill, I think you should work on your variation in your pitch and your speed. And I think you can practice this by just practicing at home. Do you have anyone to practice speaking English with at home?
I actually am good at speaking, but I was too scared, so I was like that.
I agree.
Yeah,
if I talk to my friends, I am actually really good at speaking.
No, when I ask you follow-up questions and when you answer it, it sounds very natural too. But I think it's because it is a presentation and you are feeling nervous. It affects your tone and your speed. So I guess the goal here is that so that one day you can speak as good as you are speaking with me earlier when I ask questions, or with your friends, even when you're presenting, right? That's the end goal. Okay, so I think well done.
Well, you did a really great job. I think the expert has given you a very constructive, comment so that you could, be better the next time. Because if you have some weaknesses and some room for improvement, you'll be much better in the future. But may I have a question for you? How long have you been learning English? Because you speak English really well.
About 6 years. And if I go and turn to grade 5,
Vũ, you did a really great job. You brought a lot of energy to the studio and to the audience. And on behalf of you, I would call a lot of audience to vote for you because I believe that you can win Voice of the Year. Kudos.
Yay.
Yay! And for our expert with a lot of tips on IELTS and the study plan, would you like to say something more to motivate the students?
Okay. Students, if you're planning to take the IELTS, just figure out the right course of action depending on your level, and try to make the whole process fun. Don't make language learning a cruel process that you absolutely hate. Just find English materials on YouTube and watch it so that you can absorb the language naturally. And just give it time. If you do that daily, I think with time, you will get eventually better at English.
Welcome to the backstage area of IELTS Face-off. Starting off today with our soon-to-be young scientists in the future. How do you think you can contribute to the world of science? Maybe can you briefly describe?
I think that I want to make a flying car that will not make the world pollution. I mean, like air pollution, and the car will not use gas. It will use like electricity and battery.
That's a great answer. If you like his presentation, please vote for him for Voice of the Year. And please don't forget to follow us on all social media platforms and subscribe to IELTS Face-off on YouTube. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.
Bye.